Yo, what up you guys? I went to the Dominican Republic with JetBlue for JetBlue for Good, and I want to tell you all about my trip. So I did go on JetBlue for Good last year, which was amazing. We went to Houston, and this year we're going to the Dominican Republic, but the cool thing about this is JetBlue actually let me bring one of my teachers from my school. So I brought my friend Kelley, who teaches kindergarten, and I thought that was really cool because she represents kindergarten and I represent 5th grade, so together we're like across the board. And the other cool thing is the school that I'm at this year is actually a dual language school, which means that my students receive 50% of their instruction in Spanish and 50% of their instruction in English. So this is a really cool opportunity for me to sort of feel like what it feels like to be an emerging Spanish language learner, because a huge population in our school are also native Spanish speakers. So we have students learning from students all the time, and now I was able to put myself in their shoes. Day one of the trip was pretty cool. We went to, okay, let me make sure I get this right. Escuela Básicas dos Jardas. So the school had an issue, and the issue was that they had no play space for the kids outside. JetBlue actually partnered with existing outreach programs that were in the Dominican Republic already to make sure that we could give the kids at the school everything they already needed. So JetBlue worked to build them a brand new basketball court, and we also went there to paint the inside of their school walls, because the school's actually, it's so different, it's open. So the outside walls of the school all boarded, and they're surrounded by barbed wire. And the first thing that we noticed is that was really dangerous. And they told us that JetBlue is actually working with the school also to utilize the school as more of a community space, because these kids, when they're off school and they're off for the summer, they have no place to play. So they're actually hopping over the barbed wire just to get in that play area. So since that was part of the project and it's a community space, one of the pillars of JetBlue for Good is to establish community. So we painted the inside of these walls to just be more fun and friendly and inviting. And they had so many cool things on the wall that were specific to the Dominican Republic culture. There was the Dominican Republic flag. The skin tones actually ended up being painted over to represent the skin tones of the students who go to that school, which is so great. Native butterflies were on the wall. The native landscape was on the wall. So it was really an awesome reflection of what was going on in the students' immediate community. So I was a little bit worried about this trip at first, because I often see people who go on mission trips and things like this, and then when they're there, they're just always posting, you know, pictures with the kids and pictures of what they're doing, or they go there and they just do like minimal work, and everything that they do is not really sustainable for the community. But all of my worries were set aside because JetBlue specifically saw existing nonprofit programs that were run by people of the Dominican Republic that were serving people of the Dominican Republic. So we weren't just coming in and establishing something new, we were actually assisting existing programs and helping them move forward with what their missions already were. So the next organization that we worked at on day 2, it's called Dream Project, and they work with schools to help better education in the Dominican Republic. So we worked with Dream Project. We went to a school for students with special needs, and it was incredible. The name of the school is La Escuela de Educación Especial Padre Cavalotto. My Spanish was better when I was down there, so I'm sorry. Now, when we were at this school, we were separated into 3 different groups. There's one group who was playing sports and interacting with the kids on a physical level, working with their various disabilities to help them engage in physical activity, which was pretty cool. I was part of the reading group, and I was so excited because people were thinking, oh, we're gonna go down there and we're gonna read to the kids. We're gonna read to the kids. But no, we didn't read to the kids, we read with the kids. So we were reading in Spanish, we were reading in English, we were helping each other, because this was a school for students with special needs, and just because that happened didn't mean that they actually were impaired in any way. Yeah, they had disabilities and things were a little bit harder for them, but we were reading with them, which is so amazing to relate with them through language on this different way. We also set up a scholastic book fair, so all the students got to take books home of their very own, and most of them reported to us that they had not even owned a book ever in their life before. So it was really amazing to see the happiness and the joy on their faces. The kids all got together, they sang us a little peaceful song from the Dominican Republic. It was so heartwarming, and it was just great to be there and help them in a way that was actually sustaining them and continuing them to grow. So by providing the students with these books and helping them love reading, we were also teaching them that it's a two-way street, right? Like, if people are coming to read to you, you can show them your skill and you can read back. So it was a really great language exchange, as well as a literary exchange, as well as a general cultural exchange too. Okay, so the people on the trip that came with us were incredible, and a lot of them actually spoke Spanish as well, and a few of them were actually people who are from the Dominican, so being able to exchange with them on a cultural level was so cool in itself. But when we were at the school, two of our new friends, Carolina and Darian, did the coolest thing ever. They noticed that a couple of the students had shoes that had huge holes in them and no soles, and without missing a beat, they just gave up the shoes on their feet and gave them to these students who needed it. It just truly showed me that JetBlue put so much time into thinking about who's coming on the trip, and a lot of them were teachers as well, and since one of the pillars is education, I thought that was so important. So hey JetBlue, thank you, great job. Now that day when we went home, it was really cool because Kelley and I are huge fans of Dr. Jose Medina, which you may or may not be familiar with him. If you aren't familiar with him, you can check out my interviews on my podcast with him. I believe he's episode 3 of season 1 of the Study Hall podcast, so go check that out. Okay, so Dr. Jose Medina made time for Kelley and I to talk about what we were doing in the Dominican Republic, and he really opened our eyes as to how we could take this experience and turn it into something meaningful in our home classrooms. He talked to us so much about what he calls your testimonial, and that's basically speaking your truth. What is your testimony? What does language learning mean for you?
You know that I'm big on testimonios, and testimonio is just it's all of the pieces of the tapestry that make you you. Like, one of the things that I think is going to be really important as the two of you go back and serve in Bellevue is really sharing this as now a very important part of your testimonio, because then students are going to be able to make connections, and even if they're in kinder or in 5th grade or 3rd grade, whatever grade level, they're going to understand the things that you all just explained to me. And then if you turn it around and then give them the power to share what are some of the times where you have felt like that in this classroom, that is going to be so very powerful. And remember that a testimonio not only can have an emotional impact, but it also has a socio-political impact as well. And
for me on the trip and through our conversation, Kelley, myself, and Dr. Jose Medina truly realized that when I was experiencing frustration in language, when I wasn't able to communicate with everyone around me, I was losing my personality simply because I wasn't able to have that language. And when we have students coming into our classrooms who, don't know the language as it is, the way that they're acting might not be their true personality. They just might be caught in the confines of not being able to communicate. So keeping that in mind moving forward when I go into my lessons was super important. And I'm so grateful that Dr. Jose Medina made the time for us to chat with us and to really enhance our learning of dual language education. If you want to watch the full interview that we did with Dr. Jose Medina, I have posted that to my YouTube channel as well. You can find the link to that one in the comments and the notes below. So JetBlue for Good strives to help community, education, and the last one is environment. So we had to help the local environment in the Dominican Republic somehow. So again, we were working with a pre-existing organization in the Dominican Republic called Funda Meyer. And what they do is they work so hard to protect the coral reef system that is built all around the Dominican Republic. And they told us that's what's happening. Our boats are coming in and they're dropping their anchors, and they'll drop right on top of coral reef beds. And that coral took years and years and years to become the structure that it is today, and immediately it's destroyed when that anchor takes it out. So we're building these floating buoy anchors that boats can attach themselves to rather than having to drop their anchor. So we worked on that all morning before heading home, and in just a few short hours, all the volunteers on the trip created somewhere between 50 and 100 buoys. It was crazy, but it's so cool to see that those buoys are gonna help protect the native ecosystem that's there in the Dominican Republic. Overall, JetBlue for Good is just an exceptional program. I'm so glad to see that big business are using what they have to better the world. JetBlue, you know, being an airline, sending people all over the world to help in situations that really could use some assistance. It's just so cool to see that, and it really just gives me, you know, a bright outlook on life that people are helping people, and it feels good to know that there's good going on out there in the world. I'm so excited to have participated for 2 years with the JetBlue for Good program, and I hope to go again next year. So we'll see what happens. Hey, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the internet. This is Mr. D